Hi there, boys and girls. Happy Wednesday. Today's start of listening and learning is going to be based on our reader. So we're going to actually be going through 3 technical chapters, even though the first one starts off as the introduction of your reader, because today starts the first day of Unit 9 and obviously Lesson 1 of Unit 9. Unit 9 is all about the early explorations of North America. And in particular, Lesson 1's title is called Introduction to European Exploration of North America. Today, our main focus is we are going to answer questions about the European quest for spices in Toscanelli's map. So this is going to be a person or an explorer that we're talking about today. We are going to be starting in our reader with the age of exploration. So I do want to look at a few of our vocabulary words before we get started. Explorer is a person who sets out to find new things. A conquistador, a former warrior, usually from Spain, who took control of something by force. And funding is the money provided for a special purpose. Okay, now I am going to go to our reader. Okay, Introduction to the Age of Exploration. So we want to make sure as I'm reading, you are paying attention to specific questions that I might ask in between. That's where I want you to pause that video and I want you to think about it. Tell somebody that's near you. Write it down. I want you to really be able to do all this while you're listening to me read. So then once you get to the questions that you answer on your document or your form, you're going to be all set and ready. Okay. In 1491, most Europeans did not know that North and South America existed. The people of the Americas did not know that Europe existed. Although other explorers had visited the Americas before, Europeans did not know that. In 1492, that changed. In that year, Christopher Columbus sailed across the Atlantic Ocean and accidentally landed on islands off the coast of the Americas. His explorations marked the start of the Age of Exploration. So, just from me reading this page here, what was the world like in 1491? Now you can see, first paragraph here starts off in 1491. Pay attention to that part. What was the world like? Okay, and now let's take a look at the next page, and I want us to focus in on the caption. Tell us an artist's illustration of Columbus landing in the New World. Think about this picture. Think about the people near him. How are they acting towards him? How's Columbus acting? Now remember, there were no cameras at this time back in the 1400s. So this is an artist's illustration of what it may have looked like, right? This is their understanding of what it may have looked like. Okay. As news spread about what Columbus had found, men from all over Spain raced to find treasure. Spanish conquistadors, such as Francisco Vázquez de Coronado, set out in search of silver and gold. They slashed their way through swamps, they marched across deserts, they explored and conquered many lands. A few years later, other European countries got involved. John Cabot went exploring for England, Henry Hudson explored for England and for the Netherlands, Samuel de Champlain explored for France. These explorers changed the world. They connected Europe with the Americas. You'll read about some of their journeys here. Boys and girls, think about it. How did the early explorers change the world? Just off of page 4 here. Okay. Here are some of these early explorers that they just mentioned. Notice, here's an illustration of the explorer, their name, and their source of funding. That means where did they get the money to go and explore? So they give us different countries here. Okay. Now you see we're going to be moving now into chapter 1 of our reader. And before we do that, I'm going to go all the way back to our, this would be the beginning of your reader where I would show you our vocabulary words. So I'm going to skip through this part because we just saw this. And we're going to get into chapter 1, which is going to be called The Lure of Spices. Okay, pay attention that our vocabulary words for here. I'm going to just check something up here in case I didn't miss anything. Okay. All right, vocabulary words. Spice, a substance from a plant that has a specific smell or taste and is used to add flavor to food. Overwhelm, to take over completely. And import, to bring in from somewhere else. Okay. Boys and girls, please pay attention to why is this title so important here? Okay, the lure of spices. Why were spices so important during this time period? Okay, I'm going to find my spot on my book. Okay. Many European explorers were hoping to find gold and other precious metals. You can probably understand why explorers were eager to find gold. Gold is a valuable metal even today. However, you may be surprised to learn that many explorers were also excited about finding spices. You might be saying, spices? Really? Why were they so eager to find spices? Here's the answer. Things that are scarce or hard to find tend to be expensive. That's why gold is expensive today. That's also why spices were expensive 500 years ago. Back then, spices were scarce in Europe. They were hard to find, so they cost a lot. Some spices were almost worth their weight in gold. Okay, here is a picture, and you can tell by the caption that this is a picture, an actual photograph, not a drawing, of gold. Okay, you can see from the caption of our photograph here, spices displayed in a spice market. The red balls in the center of this image are red peppercorns. A cook can add a few whole peppercorns to soup. He can use a spice grinder to grind the peppercorns into tiny bits. Either way, the pepper will add flavor to the soup. It will make the soup spicier and tastier. To the left of the red peppercorns, over here, you can see white peppercorns. These come from the same plants as red peppercorns, but they are prepared in a different way. White peppercorns start out as red peppercorns, but the outer hull of the red peppercorn is removed to reveal the inner kernel, which is white. They can be used in the same way as red peppercorns. The black bowl in the upper right of this image is filled with cloves. Cloves are dried flower buds. They are used to add flavor to meats and stews, some teas, and pumpkin pie. Cloves are very strong. Cooks who use them must be careful because adding too many of them may overwhelm other flavors in the dish. Peppercorns can't be grown in Europe. They can only be grown in warm, wet places like India. The image shows unharvested peppercorns. Today we can get peppercorns from India pretty easily. An airplane or a ship can transport large amounts of them. You can go to a grocery store and get almost any spice you want. A little jar of cloves might cost $1 or $2. A can of peppercorns might cost $5 or $6. 500 years ago, Europeans were not so lucky. The world was not as well connected as it is today. Spices were hard to get and transport. They cost a lot of money. A Spaniard who wanted pepper would have to pay for a lot more than just the pepper. He would have to pay the cost of shipping the pepper overland all the way from India, using donkeys, mules, and camels. It was the same with cloves and cinnamon. These plants could not be grown in Europe. They had to be imported or brought in to Europe from faraway places like the Indies. Many of the spices we use are the flowers, the fruits, or the seeds of the plant. Cinnamon is different. In this case, the part of the plant we use is the bark. Strips of bark are cut off the tree. The outer bark is cut away. The inner bark is kept and rolled up like little scrolls. These are called cinnamon sticks. Cinnamon can also be ground up like pepper. Do you like the taste of cinnamon? Do you like cinnamon on toast? How much do you like it? Would you be willing to sail across an ocean to get some cinnamon for your toast? In a sense, that is what European explorers were trying to do. This is star anise, cinnamon, and cloves. Okay. Last chapter we're going to do for today in our reader is going to be chapter 2, and we're going to go in my book here real quick to look at our vocabulary words. Okay. All right. Last chapter for today, chapter 2, is going to be called Toscanelli's Map. We're going to look at 2 vocabulary words. Look at the word whiz, a person who is extremely skilled at something, and voyage, a long journey, usually by water. Okay, let's hop back right into our reader. Chapter 2, Toscanelli's Map. Remember, boys and girls, we're listening to make sure that we're paying attention to all the facts and details. So today you might need to be sequencing. You might need to be just answering questions about what did this explorer do? Why is this explorer different from another explorer? Why are they the same? Okay, I want you to pay attention to what each specific explorer that we are talking about today was capable of and what they were skilled at. An Italian man named Paolo Toscanelli may have been responsible for the Europeans landing in the Americas. Toscanelli was a math whiz, an astronomer, and a map maker. In 1474, he made a map of the world, which he sent with a letter to the King of Portugal telling how to reach the Indies by sailing west. The king was very interested, but Toscanelli was not correct. On the right side of Toscanelli's map, you can see some parts of Europe in orange. You may know some of them: Ireland, labeled Irlanda, London, England, and Lisbon, Portugal, labeled Lisbona. To the south of Europe, you can see part of Africa. The part Europeans called Guinea is labeled. The Canary Islands, just off the coast of Africa, are labeled Canaria. Okay. If you look at our caption, I know they had to flip this picture today because it's one of those wide ones. The right side of this map is mostly correct. Notice mostly. Look at the left side of the map. This side shows parts of Asia, or rather, it shows parts of Asia where Toscanelli thought they might be. Now, boys and girls, to avoid me having to go back and forth from the reading to the picture, I want you to be able to either, pause, go back. You can look, okay? It says look at the left side of the map. Go back up. Look at the left side of the map where they're trying to talk about. Do you see the big island labeled Sipangu? That was what Toscanelli and other Europeans called Japan. They had heard about Japan. They knew it was somewhere in Asia, but they did not know exactly where. Toscanelli put it on his map where he thought it might be. Do you see the land labeled Cathay Mangi? That was what Toscanelli and others of his day called China. They had read about China in a book called The Travels of Marco Polo, but they did not know exactly where it was. Again, the map shows where Toscanelli thought China was, not where it really is. Do you see the islands just south of Cathay Mangi? Those are parts of the Indies. They are the Spice Islands that Europeans were so eager to reach. Okay, so here again is that map, and the left side of the map is what Toscanelli thought was there. So over here, you can see what they're talking about. We've got the Cathay Mangi, the Kapangu. Okay, so what he thought was Japan. All right, so this is what he thought it was looking like. Notice that Asia does not seem to be too far from Europe. That was one of Toscanelli's big ideas. He thought Earth was not that big. He thought Asia was probably not too far from Europe. So that's how he drew it on his map. Now, imagine you are Christopher Columbus. You want to find a way to get to the Indies. You look at Toscanelli's map. Wow, you say, look at that. Asia is right there. It's not so far from Europe. There's nothing in between but a little water. It would not be hard to get to Asia. Why, I could get there in a few weeks. All I would need to do is sail west. We can never be sure what was in Christopher Columbus's mind when he first looked at Toscanelli's map. We do know he made a plan to travel to the Indies based on Toscanelli's map. Then he set out to find someone who would pay for his voyage. In the end, he convinced King Ferdinand and Queen Isabella of Spain to pay for it. Okay, so now we have the same map, but the route Columbus planned to take. So you can see here. Now here's the same map with something added. The light blue shows what is really there, not what Toscanelli thought was there. You can see the outline of North America and part of South America. The orange parts of the map show the Asian lands Columbus expected to reach. The light blue outline shows the lands where he actually accidentally landed. Toscanelli's map explains a lot. It helps us see where Columbus got the idea of sailing west to reach the Indies. It also helps us to see why he ran into the islands of the Caribbean and why he thought he was close to China. Once again, here's that map, and this is the route Columbus actually took. All right, boys and girls, we're not going to move into any other further reading or chapters for today. I want you to take those 3 chapters that we looked at, and I want you to be able to go into your document that we put up here for you today and go back to the text to answer the questions. All right, you guys have a great day.